What role do you see automation playing in the future of finance operations?
One of the real turning point came when I was asking to lead a cross-country finance transformation project. I will be honest, it was intimidating.
You work very closely with GPPS leadership to drive continuous improvement. I imagine that process wasn't just about refining numbers, but also about fostering a culture of innovation.
I believe automation is changing finance drastically. Not just what we do, but in who we are.
ESG seems to be gaining more traction in boardrooms today.
ESG isn't something else, someone else's job. It's part of the decision we make.
It's refreshing to hear ESG spoken about not as obligation, but as an opportunity. Hello and welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, brought to you by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. I'm your host, Sani Pancholi, and today we have an incredibly exciting conversation lined up with someone who brings a wealth of experience in finance, operations, and business transformation. We are talking about none other than Mr. Karthik Eashwaran. With over 20 years in the industry, he has been a driving force behind strategic projects at global giants like Rolls-Royce and Otis. From leading large-scale financial transformations to championing automation and process excellence, Mr. Karthik has truly seen it all. His career is a testament to how innovation and operational efficiency can redefine the way companies function. Mr. Karthik, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's a real pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you, Sunny, for having me here. So it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
It's our pleasure. All right, so Mr. Karthik, you have had such a fascinating and accomplished career, and I'm sure our audience would love to hear about it directly from you. So let's start at the beginning. Can you take us through your journey? How did it all begin for you? We would love to hear about some of the key moments, turning points that shaped your path to where you are today.
Sure. Thank you again for having me here. It's a pleasure to reflect upon the journey. For me, this journey started with the love for numbers, but I quickly realized it wasn't just about balance sheet. I qualified as commerce graduate with the hope of contributing to something larger than just compliance. My early days were full of learning, working in accounts payable, accounts receivable, general ledger, and slowly understanding how financial system fits in larger business person. One of the real turning point came when I was asking to lead a cross-country finance transformation project. I will be honest, it was intimidating. I wasn't just dealing with numbers anymore. I was dealing with people, culture, system, timelines, and expectation. But this project opened my eyes to what transformation really look like. It's messy, it's unpredictable, but it is also incredibly fulfilling when done right. Later, at Otis and Rolls-Royce, I stepped into a larger role, collaborating closely with global GBS leadership to improve process efficiency. It wasn't just about cutting costs, it was about creating value through smarter ways of working. One project that stays with me involved a massive intercompany reconciliation effort. We managed to reduce the open balances by about 60%. That required cross-functional collaboration, a lot of patience and willingness to challenge legacy practices. There were definitely hard days, projects that stalled, resistance to change, team that felt burnout. But those are the moments that taught me the most. I learned to listen, to slow down when needed, and to trust my team. What guided me all along is a simple value system: do the right thing even when it's hard, keep it learning, build people, not just process. Every role I have taken was driven by a desire to contribute meaningfully, to leave something better than I found it, And that to me, it's a real reward.
Karthik, it's fascinating to hear how your experiences shape your perspective and approach to business. The way you have evolved through those challenges is something our audience can really learn from. All right, so continuing our conversation, Mr. Karthik, in your time at Rolls-Royce, you worked very closely with GBP's leadership to drive continuous improvement. I imagine that process wasn't just about refining numbers, but also about fostering a culture of innovation. So, when it comes to financial operations, how do you pinpoint those key areas for innovation? And what tools or methodologies do you rely on to bring those changes to life? I would love to hear your approach on that.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So I think innovation, especially in finance, starts with empathy. I make it a point to talk the flow, or in today's world, shadow team virtually, just to understand where the friction lies. I ask questions like what slows your work down or what you are fixing manually every month. A big example was when we noticed teams spending hours and hours consolidating data manually in Excel. It wasn't sustainable. We piloted Power Automate flows to replace some of those repetitive tasks, and that saves about 20% of manual effort year on year. More importantly, it gave people the time back to focus on analysis instead of formatting spreadsheets. Methodology wise, I lean heavily on Lean Six Sigma thinking. What's add value, what doesn't? How we continuously improve. We often use simple visual tools like streamline diagram or process mining software to identify roadblocks, but not about the fancy tools. The biggest breakthrough have often come from a simple conversation, just listening deeply and involving the team in co-creating the solution. Innovation sticks when people feel they help build it. That's all about.
Karthik, it's incredible to hear how you have harnessed these tools to drive efficiency and innovation. It's clear that the blend of strategic thinking and continuous improvement is essential to modern finance operations.
Yeah, I think it's well taken. I think it's all about running numbers. Yeah, definitely.
So, speaking of leadership, your hands on experience with core financial functions like AR, AP, FP&A, and GL really stands out. But aligning those operations with broader business strategy, that's where the real finesse comes in. So I'm curious, how do you ensure these foundational processes aren't just ticking boxes, but actually fueling strategic goals?
Definitely, Sunny. This is something I deeply passionate about because finance often get walks into keeping the lights on. But I always see it as a strategic driver. Whether it's AR, AP, FP&A, or GL, every function should answer this question: how are we enabling smarter decisions? For example, in AR, reducing DSO isn't just a metric, it improves cash flow, which fuels the growth investment. In FP&A, the forecast, accuracy isn't just a vanity KPI, it directly impacts our ability to plan, pivot, and perform. At Otis, where I worked, we looked at our GL and reconciliation process and realized that delays, they were holding back reporting timelines, which in turn slowed down executive decision making. We streamlined the close process and introduced clear ownership at every step. It wasn't glamorous work, but it has an impact. I also make it a point to translate numbers into narratives. If finance want a seat at the table, we need to speak the language of business. Talk about risk, opportunities, trade off, not just line items. The goal is to make a partner, not a checkpoint. When that alignment clicks, you will see better strategies, faster execution, and more resilient organization.
Absolutely, Mr. Karthik, and that's so insightful of you. Just hearing how those financial levers can be tuned to align with strategy really brings a lot of value for our audience, especially those who are leading or building teams.
Yeah, definitely. Those are the building blocks for the financial aspect, and we have to be cognizant of the fact for that. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, building onto our conversation, automation has been one of the biggest disruptors in finance and operations in recent years, and it's only accelerating. So, from where you stand, Mr. Karthik, what role do you see automation playing in the future of finance operations? And part B of my question is how should businesses gear up to embrace this shift meaningfully, not just technically, but culturally too?
Definitely, Sunny. I believe automation is changing finance drastically. Not just what we do, but in who we are. When we automated expense reporting and reconciliation, just for instance, the immediate benefit was time saved. But what excited me more was how it shifted the conversation. Suddenly, team members had the bandwidth to ask better questions, dive deeper into trends, and even come up with their own ideas for improvement. That's the real power of automation. It liberates talent. But there is a human side we can't ignore. Many people fear automation because they think it is all about replacing them, which isn't. I try to flip that narrative when I'm talking to my team. Automation is your ally, not your adversary. It's here to take away the mundane tasks so that you can focus on the meaningful activities. Do some judgmental activity. Take away your mundane tasks away. Of course, you need the right foundation, clean data, strong control, leadership buy in. But just as important is creating a culture of adaptability, curiosity, upskilling, cross functional collaboration, and psychological safety are critical. To me, the future of finance is tech enabled and human led. That's the balance I aim to build.
Absolutely, Mr. Karthik. I completely agree with you. And that's such a grounded take. Automation isn't just about replacing steps, it's really about evolving the functions.
Yeah, it's all about
Great.
how the machines and human function line in line close together and make things more productive.
Rightly said, Mr. Karthik. Rightly said. All right, so that brings me to something a little more personal, but also something our audiences find truly inspiring. So, at this stage of your career, what's next on the horizon for you? Are boardroom roles or larger strategic leadership aspirations something you are steering towards now?
Yeah, absolutely. After working 20 years in corporate career, I feel I myself thinking more about long-term impact. I spent about 22 decades building teams, driving global transformation, and creating operational value. Now I'm drawn towards contributing at the board level where I can influence, not just execute. The strategy, governance, and culture will be playing a more key role there. Boardroom roles interest me because they require both attitude and depth. You need to see the bigger picture, but also understand what's happening on the ground. That blend of vision and pragmatism really energizes me. I'm also passionate about leadership development, mentoring future leaders, creating inclusive teams, and helping others find their voice. And that incredibly fulfilling for me. And personally, I also exploring how I can contribute to cause beyond business, whether it's through advisory board, non-profit work, or ESG-led initiative. I want the next phase of my career to be purposeful as it is professional.
That's incredibly inspiring, Mr. Karthik. And since you mentioned ESG, there is something else I would love to tap into, especially because it's becoming a real boardroom priority these days. ESG seems to be gaining more traction in boardrooms today. So, how can business leaders align their financial operations to support sustainability and social impact, especially in the industries you work with?
Yes, Sunny. Uh, During this current timelines and the situation that we are looking into, I genuinely believe the finance has a unique opportunity to be the game changer in the ESG space. We control where the money goes. We design the policies, the approval, the procurement practices. That means we can drive sustainability from the ground up. In one of my previous roles, we worked on embedding ESG in one of our procurement strategy, favoring vendors who aligned with our sustainability goals. It wasn't just about ticking boxes. It was all about building a responsible supply chain. Budget is another area. How we really allocating towards renewable energy, employee well-being, and inclusive hiring practices. Finance can make those priorities visible and measurable. But it starts with the mindset. ESG isn't something else, someone else's job. It's part of the decision we make. I encourage my team to ask, what is the environmental social impact of this transaction? Just the simple question can drive a powerful shift. Ultimately, finance can be on the sidelines of ESG. We need to be right at the center of it. And, and the future is ESG, employee social governance, and that's all we have to be driving through this initiative.
That's so well put, Mr. Karthik. It's refreshing to hear ESG spoken about not as obligation, but as an opportunity. And the way you tied it back to financial operations really brings it to life. Great. So before we wrap up, you have been a part of Directors Institute for some time now. So I would like to ask you, how has your experience been with us, and what impact has it had on your journey so far?
Definitely, Sunny. So my experience with the Director Institute has been both grounding and inspiring. It's one thing to lead operation or to transform, but stepping into the world of governance, board dynamics is a different perspective altogether. And the Institute helped me bridge that gap through thoughtful courses, expert insight, and a community that deeply committed to responsible leadership. What I appreciate the most is practical nature of the learning. It's not the theory, it's the real world boardroom level thinking. It shaped my understanding of ESG, risk compliance, and what it means to be steward of long-term value. More than anything, it reminds me that leadership is a continuous journey. No matter how experienced you are, there will always be a room to grow, to listen, and to serve with more clarity and compassion. And that's what Director Institute has taught me. And I'm very honored to be part of it. Thank you.
That's fantastic. It's always inspiring to hear how platforms like Directors Institute have such a meaningful impact on leaders. Great. Well, Mr. Karthik, that brings us to the end of today's episode of FaceTime with Leaders by Directors Institute. I must say, your insights today have been incredibly valuable and thought provoking, and it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you, Sunny, so much for having me. It's been a great experience, and I am truly honored to share my journey with you all.
Thank you once again, Mr. Karthik, for joining in. And to our audience, we hope you found this conversation as inspiring as we did. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. We have got more incredible leaders lined up, and you won't want to miss out. Until next time, keep striving for excellence and leading with impact. Take care and stay tuned for the next episode.